It's been 7 years since the last OlliOlli game introduced us to a world of fresh and stylish skating fun. This year's new OlliOlli World encapsulates that and more as it elevates the gameplay and visuals to a whole new level. The new visual style shines beautifully and is reminiscent of Cartoon Network's Adventure Time, while the new gameplay elements add an exhilarating new pace. OlliOlli World feels like a breath of fresh air in an increasingly underrepresented genre. Taking place in the world of Radlandia, you play as a newcomer to the skating world training to become a skating master. This radical skating realm is ruled by the skating gods, and you'll skate your way through their various valleys, picking up new moves along the way. Deemed by fans as the 2D approach to the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, OlliOlli World is stylish as much as it is a joy to play. OlliOlli World nails the balance between being a therapeutic experience and a hell of a good time to just practice over and over again. Upon starting the campaign, you'll be introduced to a somewhat robust character creator that lets you make a colorful personality, your skating persona if you will. A lot of the character design choices feel similar to the design language of Adventure Time, only now in 3D. It's a surprisingly layered character creator with the social approach that lets you share your creations with friends as they load into the next game. From there, you'll travel across the various skate god realms, picking up new tricks and completing challenges for every level. OlliOlli World makes a lot of gameplay and quality of life changes that make the third entry a much more approachable experience. OlliOlli World isn't like many of the other games in the skating genre. You're not forced to restart upon making a mistake with the trick. You're just rewarded fewer points. For example, if you land a trick in an awkward position, you won't trip and restart, instead you'll just earn fewer points. Although you are also able to quickly restart from a previous checkpoint or at the beginning of the level if you want to improve your score. For newcomers to the series, or just those looking for a more accessible experience, it's a welcome design choice that makes the game feel approachable without losing its difficulty curve. Immediately I was entranced by OlliOlli World's new dynamic mechanics that help speed up the flow of gameplay. These changes come in the form of new interactive elements that break up the traditional tricks for new forms of movement, with opportunities for new tricks. Layering over the traditional setting are rails, walls, and various other elements that you can perform tricks on while continuing the skating movement. The flow is smooth and fun to execute, while the levels also see an evolution. No longer are levels left and right, they have various directions and multiple layers for a more interactive experience overall that kept me engaged the whole time I was playing. Going through each level is relatively easy. In order to continue on with the main story, all you really have to do is get to the end of each level. Outside of a few obstacles and pitfalls, it's rather challenging to fail at a level, but that's not to say that there aren't challenges. You see, while completing the level is the main objective, there are various challenges and side quests for every level that truly make up an interesting objective for the completionists out there. Some of the side quests can be hit or miss depending on the level, but ultimately added some well appreciated replay value upon completing the main game. Speaking of which, later levels unlock more multiplayer modes like a league mode that has you compete for the highest score among other players. For those eager to compete for scores, this one's for you. Meanwhile, the randomized level generator mode provided some chaotic fun at practicing my skills on whatever the game threw at me. OlliOlli World's visual design is filled with plenty of life and personality that kept me engaged throughout its entirety. The vibrant cast of characters are a bit silly but provided a rather heartwarming and charming story that's a bit more on the lighthearted side. The layered backgrounds behind the levels provided a beautiful vista as I skated across the various terrains. The change from a 2D to 2.5D perspective also made this world feel a lot more dynamic and lived in as opposed to prior entries in the series. It was quite beautiful. As far as performance goes, I played this on the Nintendo Switch, which is the weakest of the platforms this is available on, but the performance was still solid. Nintendo Switch runs OlliOlli World at 1080p 30 in dock mode and 720p 30 in handheld mode. While it's a downgrade from 1080p 60 and 4K 60 on other last gen and current gen consoles, the downgrade in visuals looks fine on the Switch. Especially on the OLED model of the Switch, the saturated color palette really popped when playing in handheld mode, despite having the slower frame rate. OlliOlli World features a lovely collection of lo-fi and techno tracks that perfectly fit with the whole silly world of Radlandia. With the press of a shoulder button, you're able to instantly switch between a handful of songs available. I found a few bangers in here that I immediately ended up looking up on Spotify, which should speak to how enamored I was by it all. Whether I was skating to a lo-fi beat in the forest or a faster paced EDM track in the city, I found myself captivated. OlliOlli World is a prime example of a beautifully designed world paired with stellar gameplay and presentation to make for one of my favorite games of the year so far. While I wasn't too impressed with the game's story, I found its characters and setting to be charming, especially when not taken too seriously. The new dynamic mechanics make going through each level a joyous time, one needed when there's so much to do for every level. For those that always want to get into a skating game but found the learning curve a bit too challenging with some of the other popular games, I suggest looking into OlliOlli World and never looking back.